start the topic yarn. Have you heard about yarn earlier? What is exactly yarn and why it is used? Like I told you that there are some differences between Hadoop 1 and Hadoop 2, why we needed Hadoop 2. And actually what is yarn, you will see with this diagram. I'm going to explain you the architecture of master and slave and how actually yarn works. So first of all, I'll tell you that yarn is the abbreviated form of yet another resource negotiator. Yet another resource negotiator. As the name itself specifies that the work of yarn is to do the negotiation of resources or working on the Hadoop cluster, that how many resources are required for which particular task or how many resources are required to store the particular file so that it can be worked upon that file. Okay. Now I can define the whole architecture, or I can define the whole, I can divide the whole architecture into two components, that is master and slave. So first of all, what I will do is I will divide this board into two parts. The top part is master and the bottom one is slaves. So when I am talking about master and slaves, I can have n number of computers, or I can have thousands of computers that are connected to each other, which are working as slaves, which are giving their resources, which are giving their memory and their RAM to store or to work on a particular data. Even there are some more resources like network. Okay, so they are, or the V cores or the virtual cores, they are giving to work or process on that particular data. So these are the slaves. Suppose I have thousands of slaves, and thousands of slaves, each of them have 10 GBs of space, okay, and then n number of GBs of RAM. So they are giving their n number of GBs into 1000. So that much of RAM is given by that cluster. Cluster means that a group of set of computers that are brought together for a particular task. Or if I say that 1000 into 10 GBs of memory is provided for the storage purpose. Okay, so when I am talking about the architecture, as I told you, there are n number of slaves which are networked to each other, on which I can store the data. But the thing is, if there are thousands of computers which are storing the data, there occurs a race condition, that which computer will be responsible for storing which particular file or which particular data. So I need one particular manager who can have a look upon this particular task, that which computer can store which data, or which computer is capable of working on which data. Okay, so for that I need a master which can control all the slaves. If I am saying that I have 10 slaves, so I need one master which can work at the top of the slave and which can explain the architecture. Okay, that this particular work has to be done that by this particular slave. I'm going to explain you this with a good example. Like I was inspired also from one of the tutorials. I saw this good example. I saw the example of yarn there. How the guy explained was that suppose I have one factory over here. This is my factory, okay, and I am the manager of this factory. I have 10 rooms over there in my factory. Okay, I have 10 rooms in my factory, and for each room, I have one supervisor. For each room, I have a supervisor. I have 10 rooms which provide me some of its space to store some packets of rice. As I saw, as I was inspired by the video, so that guy told that I have to store that particular number of packets of rice. I'm saying particular number of packets of products I have to store in this particular room. So I have 10 rooms to store my products, or to store those packets of what? Of grains. And I need some pesticide to process on that grain. So if I am saying that I have 10 rooms, and I know that the defined area of one particular room is 100 square feet. Suppose the particular defined area of this room is 100 square feet. The defined area of the room in front of this room is the same 100 square feet. All the rooms are of 100 square feet. Now I have kept one supervisor in front of every classroom. That supervisor is keeping a look inside the classroom that how much space is particularly left in my classroom right now. Suppose I am the manager, I am sitting there at the main counter, I am maintaining one register with me. So there are trucks coming and they are bringing the packets with them. Okay, and the guys told, okay, I want to store this particular packet of rice in a go down. So can you please tell me that where you have the sufficient space where I can store this? I opened my register and I saw that, okay, classroom number 1 has 100 square feet vacant now. Classroom number 2 also has 100 square feet vacant right now. Similarly, all the classrooms have 100 square feet vacant right now. I told that, okay, you can go any of the classrooms and you can store the packets of rice, because I have the vacant space in all the classrooms. Okay, now that those guys came and they stored 10 packets of rice in this particular classroom. Those 10 packets of rice occupied 50 square feet of my area of this classroom. And now 50 square feet was left. Or I can say 50% was occupied and 50% was left. 50 square feet was left. The supervisor who was standing at this gate saw the whole scenario that okay, 50% is already occupied, or 50 square feet is already occupied by these packets of rice, and I have now 50 square feet or 50% left with me. The same has to be updated to the manager. But the another constraint was to work on those 50 rice packets, or sorry, I can say 10 rice packets which are occupying 50 square feet. I needed some pesticide. So I had some quantity of pesticide as well in all the classrooms. Or I can say I had 100 square feet of area in this classroom, and I had 4 kgs of pesticides, so that as the packets come here, I can process those packets with these pesticides. So I had 4 kg of pesticides and some area. The guys came and kept the 10 packets. 1 kg of pesticide was utilized. I updated my manager that earlier I had 100 square feet of area. It is well known to you because you have maintained this in your register from the beginning itself, that how much capacity of each classroom is and how many pesticide is contained in each classroom. But now I have occupied 50% of the classroom and 1 kg of pesticide is utilized. So please keep a note of it, so that if in future some more packets arrive at you, you are aware of this fact that I don't have so much space with me. I am just capable to store 10 more rice packets with 3 kg of pesticides left with me. So well good, as a manager I updated that. I updated that in my register that much particular number of space is left in that particular classroom. So this is how I managed my whole infrastructure. I managed my building. I was the manager. I managed my building. I told my supervisor that kindly please update me so that I can be updated with the fact that this much space and this much pesticide is left with me. So the packets when arriving at me can be kept in that particular classroom. The same scenario I can compare in the case of area of room. What I can say? I can compare it with what? With the memory. And the pesticide I can compare with the RAM that is utilized for a particular task. So this is how, being a manager, I was keeping the account of my whole building. So being a resource manager, as I told you, the work of resource management is done by the master. Okay, there is some service and master who does the work of this resource manager. Okay, so being a resource manager, this account has to be kept by whom? By the service which is running in the master, who is responsible for keeping the accounts, that how much of the resources are being utilized and how much can be kept reserved for future use. Now I'll explain you in details that how this yarn works. The first component in master, I told you that I have divided my diagram into 2 halves, master and slave. As this infrastructure works, the first part is the master and the first service in the master is name node. Second one is secondary name node, and the third one is job tracker. Similarly, the 2 services which are running at my slave's end is data node and task tracker. Data node and task tracker at the slave's end, name node, secondary name node and job tracker at the master's end. So exactly when I am talking about the architecture of Hadoop, what I said, if I suppose I draw the architecture over here, I have one master and I have 3 slaves with me. Suppose I have 3 slaves with me, slave 1, slave 2 and slave 3. This is the master. Now what actually happens in the scenario of Hadoop is, I just feed one file at the end of the master, the file is fed to the master. There is one service running in the master, that is name node. Okay, now what happens actually in the master is the file is broken into small chunks, 64 MB, 128 MB or 256 MB. I have 3 options with me, 64 MB, 128 MB or 256 MB. That file is broken into chunks by the master. Okay, suppose I gave the file mishra.txt this file is fed to the master will break this file into the number of components it can be broken into. I just specified that I need one chunk of 64 MB. I need one chunk of 64 MB. Suppose I fed the file of 128 MB. So how many chunks will I get? 2 chunks. Because I have specified that I need one chunk of 64 MB. So my master will break this Mishra.txt file into 2 chunks. Suppose the chunks are D and F. The chunks are D and F. D is stored on particular slave 1 and F is stored on particularly slave 2. Now this information has to be kept by the name node. The name node is for this purpose only, because name node keeps the information that the file which is the Mishra.txt is broken into 2 parts, which is D and F respectively, because in future someday if you ask for that particular file from the master, it should be known to the master that where I have stored the components of the file. If I am breaking the file into chunks of 64 MB, it should be known to the master that where those chunks of that file is stored. And this task particularly is done by name node. Name node is a service which is running at the master end, which keeps the account that this particular file is broken into these many number of components. So, or I can say that it keeps the metadata of that file. What is metadata? Information about data. So this is my data. Mishra.txt file is also a data. So information about this file is kept by name node. So what exactly it holds with it is Mishra.txt is made up of D and F chunk, which is stored on data node, or I can say slave computer, slave system 1 and 2. Now what happens in Hadoop is, as I told you, as you store the file, that file is broken into chunks, 2 more different replicas are made and they are stored on 2 different computers. Okay, so we saw what's the working of name node. There is another service which is running on master, that is secondary name node. The work of secondary name node is to take the data of name node time to time, the exact data which is maintained by name node is the information about the chunk, or I can say the metadata and the edit logs. So what secondary name node does is, it continuously takes, or I can say periodically updates itself with the data of the name node. So this is the second service which is running on the master. The third service which is running on the master is job tracker. As the name itself specifies, the work of job tracker is to track the status of the job. As I said to you, suppose I have to do some kind of processing on this file Mishra.txt, which is broken into 2 chunks D and F. Okay, I have to check that how much percent of my task is completed, because the client keeps on asking to this job tracker that how much percent of the task is completed. So what happens is, there are task trackers present on all the slaves. Task trackers. So this is basically a slave daemon of this job tracker. This task tracker keeps on informing this job tracker about the information of its particular node or on the particular computer on which it is running. Suppose there are 3 slaves, so I say that there are 3 slaves, it means there are 3 task trackers, and these 3 task trackers are continuously informing this job tracker about the task which is being performed on this particular file Mishra.txt, which is broken into chunks D and F. Okay, so the task tracker, the job tracker asks task tracker that how much percent of my task is completed, how much percent of my task of this file Mishra.txt is completed. So for that it asks slave number 1 and slave number 2 that you have this chunk number D particularly, how much percent of my task is completed. So the task tracker which is present on this particular slave informs the job tracker that on my part I have completed suppose 30% of the job. Similarly, this task tracker informs the job tracker that on my part I have completed 50% of the job. Or I can say the task tracker specifies the ongoing status of the task. So the job tracker keeps a total that of this particular job, an average of 50 plus 30 upon 2, 40% is completed. can say basically the work of job tracker is to look on that particular job, because job tracker is sitting at the master and it is keeping a look at the job which is going on in the cluster. So it keeps a total that this much percent of the task has been completed, which is informed respectively by those task trackers which are present on those particular nodes. So what I can say that one work of job tracker is to do what? To do what? Ongoing task status. The second work of job tracker is to do cluster management. As I gave you the example of that factory right now, that is, suppose I have to store these many number of rice packets in this particular room, and for that I need some kind of pesticide to process that. So I need to keep a total that how many resources are with me. So this is basically the full process is about cluster management. This is about the factory management which I told you. The same reference can be taken here as cluster management. So the manager which I told you in the example, that manager sits on the top or manager sits at the factory and he sees that okay, this much the particular space is available in this particular room, this much pesticide is available with me in this particular room, because the supervisors have informed so about those particular rooms. Okay, so that manager can be compared with job tracker over here, and the supervisors can be compared to the task tracker over here. So exactly what task tracker does is, in the respect of cluster management, task tracker informs the job tracker that on my system, the task tracker of slave 1 informs that on my system 30 GB of memory is present, this much amount of RAM is present, this much amount of CPU is present. So I can contribute this much to the cluster. Similarly, task tracker present on slave 2 specifies that on my system this much amount of memory is present, x number of amount of RAM is present, and this much amount of other resources are present. Let it be any resource. So similarly, all the task tracker specifies that these many resources are present with me, and the same information is kept by the job tracker. So what I can say that job tracker is working as a manager over here. As I told you, the manager keeps on updating his register that this much space is occupied, this much pesticide has been used. Similarly, here job tracker keeps the information that this much hard disk has been utilized, this much RAM is not being present in slave 1 right now, which was earlier in my information 2 GB RAM, but now it's not 2 GB. So all the information about the resources is kept by the job tracker, or I can say the work of cluster management is done by the job tracker. This is the work of cluster management. The pesticide I told you can be compared to the other secondary resources like RAM, network, etc. And the space in the room which I told in that example can be compared to the memory over here. So task tracker keeps a total of its memory and other resources. Got it? Okay, so what I can say is the other work of job tracker is to do cluster management. Two works I know till now: ongoing task status, and second one is cluster management. Apart from this, there was one more service which was served by the job tracker, and that was to keep the info of all the completed jobs, or I can say the jobs which has been completed 100%. So that if sometime the client asks, that this task is completed or not, so instead of going to the task tracker and looking at how much task is completed, it can directly browse its whole information, and it can search that okay, this is registered in this particular completed job task. Okay, so now what happens is, this was Hadoop 1 about which we are talking. In Hadoop 2 we don't have job tracker and task tracker. These have been replaced. Okay, another service, the work of task tracker, let me write. The work of task tracker, first work was to give the information of resources to the job tracker, and second work was, what was the second work? To update the status of what? Update what? Task status. But in Hadoop 2 there were few limitations in Hadoop 1. Because job tracker was itself responsible to do all these three things at a particular time, because of which efficiency was low and the cluster size was restricted. So we needed an implementation where these three services can be categorized into three distinct units. And those three distinct units in Hadoop 2 are named as, for cluster management, we have resource manager. For completed jobs, we have job history server. And for ongoing task status, we have application master. Okay, we have application master for that. I'm going to rub this right now because I'm going to extend this diagram a bit. Okay, now what happens is in Hadoop 2, these three services are replaced by these three. What happens is, actually, when the job is being launched or when a file is being launched at a particular data node, and it is seen that okay, this much particular task is completed, this much work is particularly completed on this file. So at that time, application master is also launched with that file. Or I can say that this implementation of ongoing task status is changed with application master right now. So application master is present with the job itself, wherever the job is running. So I can say that even I don't need this implementation of task tracker or the implementation which explains me the ongoing task status, because this has been replaced by application master. So these the service in these two, task tracker and job tracker, that this particular work of ongoing task status has been replaced by application master. So even I don't need this feature of task tracker updating the task status. So in Hadoop 2, instead of task tracker, only one work of task tracker currently we need is information of resources, which is given by node manager. Or I can say the services of Hadoop 1 is replaced in Hadoop 2. Those services are job tracker and task tracker, and they are replaced by them. So this is the new implementation of Hadoop 2, which I can specify as yarn. Yarn comprises of application master, resource manager, node manager. Now earlier the information of resources was updated by task tracker, but in current implementation the information of resources is given by whom? By the node manager. We don't need the updated task status because application master is present over there to look at the ongoing task status. So I can divide this diagram into two more halves, and I can specify it as Hadoop 2, and this part can be specified as Hadoop 1. I think this diagram is pretty clear to you all, because this is giving a clear pictorial representation of Hadoop 1 and Hadoop 2 and how the changes occurred from that Hadoop 1 to Hadoop 2. So this whole scenario can be understood by this diagram. And let me say that if you are familiar with this diagram, if someone asks you in the interview about yarn, about anything in yarn, you can just draw this diagram, and it is quite descriptive. Now I can extend this diagram. The resource manager is further divided into two more parts, and that is application manager and scheduler. So basically, what is the work of scheduler? As I told you, the manager is responsible for keeping that register. It keeps the information that this much space is available in this particular room, which is specified by the supervisor. In that example of factory we saw. The same example I told you over here, that the information is given by the task tracker to the job tracker, and job tracker keeps a look that okay, how I can manage the resources. Okay, but this information is specifically kept by resource manager, or more specifically I can say the scheduler, which is present inside it. So the information that how many resources are present with my cluster is kept by the scheduler. Now if any task comes, the task is given to the master, Scheduler looks at its directory and finds out कि okay this file can be stored particularly to this particular place in my cluster, and it can be done by this particular system. It can be done by this particular node, not system. I can say that this particular node. It can be completed by this particular node. So what scheduler does is scheduler gives that particular task to that particular node which is capable of doing this task, because scheduler has the information. Resource manager has the information because it is doing the work of cluster management, and being a part of cluster manager, it has the information that how much RAM, how much memory, how much resources are present with me. So that information is with the scheduler. So it knows well that how to assign this task to which node. So what scheduler does is scheduler launches that task on a particular node as it sees fit. That's why I have extended that arrow from scheduler to the node manager. Now suppose I gave a file, scheduler looked at its directory and I can say it's at its register and found that okay, this one space is available on this particular node. So let me do one thing, I'll store this file on node manager 1. It stored the file on node manager 1. What is the second process that will happen after this? Node manager 1 will specify to the scheduler okay, earlier I told you that I had 100 GB of space, but you gave me this many GBs of file, and now I'm occupied with 10 GBs. So my current status is of 90 GB only. So please keep this record with you because you are a scheduler. And being a scheduler, you need to hold this record with you that how much space and how much resource is available with me. So first arrow is launching a container. When I say that space is occupied by the scheduler knows okay that this can be done by this particular node manager. I can say that a container is launched over there. After occupation of the resources, the node manager specifies, second point, the node manager specifies to the scheduler that my current resource status is this X. This is my current memory and current RAM status. Now scheduler updates its register accordingly, so that whenever new task comes to it, it can work accordingly. Okay. Now with launching of this container, application master is also launched. And what is the work of application master? I told you application master does the work of keeping a track of the job, that how much percent of the job is being completed. So it is launched with the container itself, or it is being launched at that point where the job is launched. So it keeps a track that this particular work occupied this many space and this is the current ongoing status of the task. So this much percent of the work is being completed. Now after the actual execution of the task, application master comes to know that for this work I need some more resources. So what it does is, after the updation is done, what application master does is, when the execution is started, it sees okay, I need some more resources for this. So what it does is, it reaches the scheduler again, it goes to the scheduler again and asks that being a scheduler, you have the information that how much resources are available in the cluster, correct? So just let me know that for this task I need some more resources because I am an application master and I am seeing the ongoing status of the job. So for this job I need some more resources. So being a scheduler, you have the information that how much resource is occupied by which node. So please specify me so that I can occupy so many number of resources from those nodes. Now I can say this process as negotiation for future containers. Now scheduler says, okay, being a scheduler, I have the information that this much space is available with this particular system or this much resource is available with this particular system. So you can do one thing, go and take space from node manager 2. Now what happens is, scheduler specifies the application master go and take space from node manager 2. application master comes back to the node manager 2 and tells the node manager that scheduler has told me that you have this much number of resource with you. I want this much number of resource from that. Can you please provide me? The node manager says that I am a node manager and I am slave of resource manager. I can't deny to that. If the resource manager, because scheduler is part of resource manager, if the resource manager said that you need resources, of course I will provide you with those resources. Because I keep on updating about my information to the resource manager. Any doubt? Okay, I keep on updating my information to the resource manager. If resource manager told, I will give you the particular resource, and that particular resource or that particular container or that particular number of resources is given by the node manager to the application master, and again the same process happens. The node manager updates the new info because again some more resources are utilized, and if new resources are utilized, it means what? It means what? Yeah, exactly. That has to be updated. So now the new information is kept with the scheduler. Okay, so this was the diagram of yarn. I can specify scheduler into two more components, that is fair and capacitive, that we will see with the part of the scheduler itself. Okay, so we'll end the topic today. Okay, thanks.